Right. All right, I think we're live. Guys, if you can hear me and see me okay, just make sure you say, give us a comment in the chat, just make sure that we're coming through okay, because we got a really special and exciting training with you. I brought Olivia Rutledge in here to share her experience working with us, where when she initially joined, she was right around 3 to 5 patients. We're going to get into what her backstory was, but 3 to 5 patients a month inside of her practice, and then very quickly crack through to the 10K, 12K, and on their way to 15K months just 90 days later. And so I wanted to bring her out here, one, because she has a story that we hear all too often where cash practice owners are just getting things rolling. And they're trying to figure out, like, how can I get the word out there soon enough among so many other cash practice that are getting out there? How do we stand out? How do we get them coming in? And how do we get them to invest right away so that they stick with us, so that we're not always chasing down more and more and more clients? We get them to stick around. So Olivia, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you have a young infant at home, so really appreciate you taking the time to come and share your journey with us, what you've learned through this, and help give our community here some tips to help them get unstuck within their own practice.
Yeah, thank you for letting me come on here and share my story. It was not too long ago that I was in everyone else's shoes and trying to figure out if clinical marketer was for me.
Yes. So we're really excited to dig into all of the details and make sure that people can walk away with something to chew on, something to work on, and hopefully be able to implement tomorrow. That's going to help them better get a grip on the traction within their business and start getting some more growth within their practice. So before we dive into all the fun kind of nitty-gritty details of growing a practice, can you just give us a little bit of background on who you are? Like, you obviously have a family, but give us a little bit of a background into who Olivia Rutledge is.
Yeah, so I graduated from PT school in 21. Not long after graduating, I worked in a skilled nursing facility for right at a year. My husband and I, we got pregnant with our firstborn that same year. So not too long, into that first year out of school, we were having Parker, my son. And it was kind of then that I realized I wanted some more flexibility with like my time, being home, being able to spend time with them, but also just having the freedom of like having my own practice. I knew that that was something that I always wanted, but I didn't know exactly how to get there. So when I was pregnant with him, I knew that, women's health and pelvic floor was such a need, especially in the area that I'm in right now. So I just kind of dove headfirst into it. And then right after I had him, I was like, you know what? I think I want to do this. I want to do my own thing. And that's kind of where I got to now.
I love it. And like, what were you doing that led up to you deciding, like, I can't do this anymore, I need to start my own thing?
I was working like 40 to 43 hour weeks. I had absolutely no free time. I was making really good money, or what I thought was good money, where I was, but unfortunately I was, a lot of my time was being taken away for making good money. I was working practically every other weekend at that point, and where I was at, basically I had no help along with me, so it was just me taking the brunt of all of that work. So I just knew, I was burned out. I had been out of school for a year at that point, and I was just done with working for someone else.
Sorry, I was muted. How long did you ride that out? Like, how long were you thinking about starting your own thing before you pulled the trigger on it?
I would say probably about 8 to 9 months.
8 to 9 months. What was the straw that broke the camel's back? What got you to finally do it?
Probably when I had my son.
That'll do it.
Yeah.
That'll do it.
Because I didn't want to go back to working those long hours again and just missing out on all that family time that I knew that I would be if I went back to working for somebody else.
Yeah. So important. It's why we all do what we do. And once you get a taste of it, there's no going back. Would you say you're unemployable at this point?
Yeah. I'm
I love it. That's always a fun question, because it's something that a lot of people never consider themselves, like entrepreneurs or business owners, as they're going through school and as they're getting into the workforce. But then, like, once you have that first person that like pays you, and it's like, oh, things could be a lot different. So that I'm happy that things got rolling for you, that you were able to make that decision. So not a lot of people have the I don't want to say that they struggle to overcome the fear of what might happen if they take that leap. So when did you actually decide to start the practice, and how long were you in this like 3 to 5 visits a month mark?
Yeah, so I started my practice October of last year. Right away, as soon as I like announced on my Instagram page and Facebook that I had started my practice, I think I got 3 patients immediately from there. So things were good, and I was like, 3 patients, that's awesome right off the rip. I never went around and like talked to any doctor's offices or anything like that, just because going in person to market yourself a lot of times I find is not very successful, at least for myself. So I kind of let my patients do the talking for me. So, October is done, November, you have holidays rolling around, Christmas time. And I wasn't really getting anybody in the door at that point. I think I might have got like 1 or 2 other people. So things really slowed down. I had to go back to my PRN jobs at that point, and I was just like, this is exactly what I'm trying to get away from, and I'm going right back to it. Like I need some type of guidance on how to market my business, how to get my name out there, what I should be doing differently. I think at that point I had tried to run some Facebook ads on my own at like $5 a day, and they got absolutely nowhere. So I was like, okay, well, this isn't working. So what do I do? You go to school to be a physical therapist, but you know nothing about like the marketing aspect of things or how to run a business. So for me, I was kind of left in the dark, it felt like at that point. And that's when Ty ended up sending me a message, and the rest is history.
I love it. So the first thing you found our group and kind of poked around in there, and then that's how you got connected with us.
Yeah. I think I hung out in the Facebook group for probably like a month before I ended up committing.
Yeah.
Just because I was a little uneasy at first, and I was like, this is a pretty big commitment. I had just started my business. At that point, I didn't have a whole lot of money in my business account either. So it was a big jump for me. So I want to say that I talked to somebody on the phone about maybe committing, and then I kind of backed back out and looked at the videos in the group, and I was like, okay, so, obviously people are successful from this. I've watched enough videos at this point to where I think I should just do it. So, and that's when I ended up joining.
Love that. Is there any particular like resource or training that you watched that you found was really helpful with making that decision to commit to something like our programs?
I definitely watched, I can't remember his name, but I definitely watched his video, and then you guys hooked me up with him. So him and I talked on like a Facebook chat, like a video chat.
Yeah.
And from there I was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and commit.
Yeah, I'll have to find out who that was so I can go and thank him.
Yeah.
So when you were for a lot of people who are watching this, they've never committed to something like a mastermind program where they have kind of the guidance and that accountability and that structure to do stuff. And it's a pretty scary leap just because there's so many like horror stories that float around for people getting burned left and right. And there are a lot of people floating out there. So, what was your biggest hesitation with joining? And then what was like the deciding factor of like, yes, this is what I need to do to move forward?
Yeah. I think definitely the biggest hesitation was price for me. Cause like I said, I was a brand new practice. I didn't have a whole lot of money. So that's kind of what made me just hold my breath at first. And then I just decided to leap forward because I knew we were going into the new year, and Christmas was over at that point. I still hadn't gotten any more leads, and I was like, if I'm going to grow my business and get to where I need to be, obviously I need something working for me in my favor, and I just couldn't get it done by myself. So I just knew that you guys would be able to help me.
Yeah, I love it. Was there any particular piece of the program where you're like, that's like the thing that I have to have?
I definitely remember the first few videos that I watched from the beginning. I was like, wow, this is unlike anything that I expected. It just gave me a lot of motivation from the beginning. I remember I ended up like joining a gym that first week of January after I watched some of the videos too. And I was just like in a completely different headspace with where I wanted my business to go, what I wanted my goals to be.
That makes me so happy because like I think like the non-negotiables and daily habits are the most important thing ever, because if like you're growing, your business is growing. So that makes me really happy to hear, because I don't get to hear a whole lot of feedback on that side. So that makes me really happy. You staying with them?
Oh yeah, for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, some days it gets away from me, but for the most part.
I love that. That's like my favorite kind of feedback. So obviously once you joined, you had some pretty quick success. So can you just walk us through the numbers, like from day one to day, you're coming up on 90 days, I believe, in the program. So why don't you walk us through kind of your first impressions and where you are now?
Yeah. So I want to say that I ended up joining right around the beginning of January. Um, I still hadn't ran any ads until the end of January. So at that point, I was kind of just, waiting for things to get started. February came around. I started to get some leads a week after I'd been running my ads. At first, I was a little hesitant because I was like, nobody's coming in. Like, is this really going to work for me? My best advice is to be patient. And it was just like everything happened for me at once. I ended up hitting right at a 10K month in March. So that was huge. And ever since I began in January, it feels like it's almost increased, especially in January. I want to say I was at like 2K already in January. And that is huge for me because last year, like right when I opened my business, I made like maybe $500, $750 in the month of November. So really nothing at all at that point. And then every single month gradually increased. One of my goals at the beginning of the program was to hit somewhere between 7 and 10K, and then I ended up hitting that in March.
So
And that was with a week off of work taking care of a sick little one. So that was awesome. April was just as good, if not better. I was a little over 13K at that point. And then this month has been my best one yet. We're only 10 days in and I'm already at 7K. So it just keeps getting better and better at this point.
that's how does that feel for you?
It feels incredible. Like I'm smiling ear to ear just because I don't know. I'm like I said, I was in everyone else's shoes like not too long ago, and to sit here and like tell you my numbers, it doesn't feel real sometimes.
Right. And it's just the beginning too, like what you're gonna be able to accomplish in the trajectory that you're on. Where do you think you want to be 12 months from now?
Yeah, so I'm looking to hire a PT by the end of the summer, so I'm super hyped about that. I'm in my own space right now. So when I started, I was actually just mobile. So I ended up finding another space. I just talked to my landlord today about maybe getting another room for my other PT.
My
I
goodness.
hired a virtual assistant. So I don't know. The goals are endless at this point. It feels really good to be where I am.
And I can't tell you how good it feels for us, like on the team. Like your story and your like success, like that is 1000% why we do what we do. We celebrate all those things really hard behind the scenes in our Slack channel. So you, just to make sure I have this right, because I actually didn't know this first detail. You started out with us. You're around $2,000 a month. Few patients that you were seeing that you got organically through social media posts, which is something I'd love to circle back on, because I think that's something that people would be interested in. But you were mobile, and then you joined us. You obviously implemented our system. Within the like close to the first month, you hit your first 10K month. That gave you the ability to move into your own brick and mortar. Then you hit your first 13K month, and now you're on track to hit your first 15K month. And now you're looking to expand your space, and you were already in talks. Well, you hired a VA, and now you're in talks to hire your first staff PT.
Yeah.
All in the span of how long?
So I joined in January, so January, March, April. I mean, less than 4 months.
That is insane. Everyone, let's celebrate Olivia, because that's a huge accomplishment. And that's something to be really, really proud of. Because what I want to get into in a second is like none of the credit can come to us, because we just show you like here's what works. But everyone that we work with, we make it very clear that Facebook ads are not magic. They are literally just a source of traffic. What you do with that traffic is what determines success. And so I want to dig into that a little bit, because I think a lot of people just think that you can just flip the switch and everything just like works out. And that, as you know, is not the case, especially when you just started out and things were a little slow. So what were the biggest takeaways that you've learned from the program so far, that like the number one thing that you would attribute like the quick success to within the program?
Definitely the organization of everything. Like I was big time lacking organization before, as far as like systems and how to implement, when someone was interested in what I had to offer. Like I didn't have anything set up at that point. So it was just like patients would see my website, and I feel like it wasn't structured very well either. So at that point it was just like I was just kind of basing it off of what the 2 or 3 clients that I had, what they were telling their friends. So I feel like I just had no structure whatsoever until I joined the program.
Nice. And I think that's the most important thing ever, because like if you look at any like workshop or a doctor's office or like the ER, everything is extremely organized, and you'll be as successful as the as basically the organization around you. So I want to make that crystal clear what other, what you mean when you say systems and like keeping things organized. Like specifically, what sorts of things are you talking about?
Just within like the clinical marketing hub, just when I had a lead that would come in, it would go ahead and put them in either the category of like a hot lead or just a lead in general. And then that gives me an idea of where I need to go with that lead, as far as like making a call to them, putting them in the follow-up stage, getting them booked right away. It just gave me a better idea of like how to organize not only my own like documentation system that I already had, but how to just organize the schedule in general.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And I think it's underappreciated, because everyone thinks like the shiny stuff like sales and patient acquisition. But very few people think of like the systems that allow one to flow into the other one to make it smooth and make it fast. So I love that. Is there a second thing that you would say is like this was like the biggest thing that helped me go from where I was to where you are now?
I would definitely say the automation messages that we have set up too. I never had anything like that set up. Never would have thought about any of that either, just because I'm so much of someone that's like, I don't want to bug somebody if they're not interested. And I cannot tell you how many people end up texting or calling me and they're like, "Oh yeah, I got your message, and I just forgot to reach out. Is it okay if we go ahead and set something up?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I forgot about that." And then
Those
I
are
set
the
them
best.
up. Yeah, and honestly, those are the ones that end up coming in and buying like a 10-pack session at that point. So it's like, yeah, this is absolutely incredible. If I didn't have this set up, I never would have made that money.
Yeah. And so for the people who are watching this, who are probably just running things solo on their own, they may or may not have an automation tool for them to leverage. Like, what sorts of messages um, have we helped you automate that are causing those conversations? Do you remember specifically like what kinds of messages are being sent that are starting those conversations?
Yeah, I just had one that went out today that was just like checking in on the patient. Do you need anything? Just want to see how your progress has been since we last talked. And the girl texted me right back and she was like, "Hey, actually, I forgot to, follow up on our last message. Such and such has been bothering me. Do you think you can help me with that?"
And that was today. She messaged in.
That was today, and I got her on the schedule. So,
Let's go. Freaking love that. So, just for clarity for everyone watching, that is a patient reactivation or cold lead reactivation campaign. And so it's a very basic message that's just like, "Hey, it's Olivia, just checking in, seeing how you're doing. Is there anything I can help you with?" It's very conversational, meant to feel very personal. And that's something that we automate to send out via text or via email. It alternates between the two. That goes out every 30 to 45 days for about 6 months before giving them an entire 90-day break. And then it starts the whole thing over. So it's a perpetual system for contacting past patients as well as cold leads to get them back in the door. So excited to hear that that's working out for you. Any other like takeaways that you've learned from this program that you really wish someone had just like taken you by the hand and explained to you before you joined our program, that some of the people on here who might be struggling, you might be able to take home and try out?
yeah, I mean, I feel like my best advice to give is just to do it. I feel like I was just so hesitant, just basing it off of, what if I, don't do well or succeed in the program. And I feel like you guys do a really good job of making sure that someone does. Even when I was super nervous at the beginning and my ads weren't quite running yet, you guys were really good about just following up and like scheduling, Zoom meetings with me or calls in general to calm my nerves and just let me know, just be a little patient. This is what we have in the works. I don't know. It's all around a great program and I would recommend it to absolutely anyone that's cash based.
Thank you so much. I didn't ask her to say that, y'all, but I really appreciate you saying that, especially because right now we do have a promo going on today. So I appreciate you saying that. So one thing that I'm curious of when you joined, obviously we help a ton with the front end marketing, the organic marketing, the sales, but did anything change within your treatment style or the experience that you've been using that's been working really well to sell more effectively?
Yeah, I would say I'm definitely a lot more confident when patients walk in the door and there's a lot more structure to how I want to go about my treatment sessions. And I guess at the beginning, I do feel like I was probably trying to be more so like a salesperson than a physical therapist. So I learned very quickly, be yourself, but implement the stuff that you gave me to the treatment session and the evaluation process. And people, they love it. They absolutely love it. So it's definitely helped me like structure the way that I want to go about my evaluation, the plan of care, all that good stuff as well.
Is there anything that comes to mind, like specifically that has allowed you to be more relaxed, like what that structure looks like when someone actually walks through the door?
I would say even from the beginning, like that first phone call, just, having the script to base it off of, making people feel assured that they're getting something different from me that they would from like their insurance-based PT down the road. So from the beginning, we're talking about what are your goals, what are you looking for from a physical therapist? Just really important things that you're not going to get elsewhere. And then they come in my door and we're asking, what what are some things that you've missed out on? Like, how can I make that better for you? Just all around is just something that you're not going to get from anyone else.
Yeah, yeah, and I especially love how you frame that because everyone hates selling. Like I don't like to sell. I like to advise. I like to consult, and I think that's the my favorite part of the process that we've created over the last several years, growing our own practices. Not trying to sell anyone, just asking good questions and allowing them to guide themselves to the solution. So I'm glad you shared that. So besides jumping in and joining booked, which of course anyone who wants to talk about it, please just put booked in the comments below and we're happy to follow up with you and see if you're a good fit for our programs. But is there any other advice that you have for someone who's just stuck, maybe trying to give up or feels like they might have to switch careers because they're stuck in PRN or they're stuck in a job that's overworking them and underpaying them? What kind of advice do you have for them?
Yeah, please don't give up. Because there is help out there. There's always, yeah, don't give up because I feel like that was me like before I jumped into my business. And then at that point I was so frustrated. I was just like, you know what? We're gonna make it work. We'll find a way to make it work. And if I had actually had two PRN jobs that I was still working at the very beginning, and I just ended up quitting those not too long ago. So I knew that if, my business was not going to be successful, even with me joining the program, I had that in my back pocket. So if that's what you need to do to help you commit, then there's absolutely nothing wrong with that either.
Yeah. You can always go back. That's something I think people forget. Like it's this like point of no return kind of decision. That's definitely not true. So for you, what is the grand vision? What is your vision for your practice? Is it just to fill your schedule, bring on one other person and just sit there? Or do you have like this larger grand vision that you're thinking?
I mean, I would love to have eventually like a whole team of women's health pelvic floor therapists. I would love to have like a prime space of my own somewhere like in the Blacksburg or Christiansburg area. I would love to double, if not triple my numbers if I could. I mean, at the beginning when I started this program, I thought it was kind of impossible to even have a 10K month. And here I am looking at a 15 at this point. So I feel like it's kind of endless at this point. I keep like dreaming bigger and bigger things that are going to happen. And just for some reason, I feel like they definitely are going to come into existence someday.
It's crazy how quickly your perspective starts to shift when all of a sudden you look at the, the business bank account and it's like, whoa. And now for you doing even $10,000 a month now, would that feel a little bit like almost like a bummer to you at this point?
Yeah, a little bit.
Right. And it's like, that's a dream that's like so hard to like even imagine just a few months ago. And now it's like an emergency.
Right.
So I always think that's funny. But Olivia, I just want to say thank you again for jumping out here and sharing your knowledge and sharing your journey with us. It's been a ton of fun getting the opportunity to work with you. And now I have no doubt in my mind just seeing like your work ethic and how quickly you execute stuff and how you manage stress and push through the challenges that all entrepreneurs have to go through. I have no doubt in my mind, 1 year from today, you're going to have that full team. You're going to be pushing those bigger numbers, 50, 60K per month. So obviously keep us in the loop. Keep jumping on the calls with us. We're really excited to continue working with you.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, excellent. Everyone who's watching this live and watching the replay, if you have any questions for either myself or Olivia, please don't hesitate to drop questions below. We're happy to answer them and make sure that you get the help you need. As she said in the beginning, before she joined us, she did her due diligence. She went through a lot of our resources. If you're looking for any resources on sales, on our evaluation process, on our sales and beliefs framework, or any marketing stuff, just message below in the thread, and we'll make sure we get those free resources out to you so that we can help you out, provide you some value, and you can decide for yourself if we're someone that you're interested in working more with. So everyone have a fantastic rest of your day. Please thank Olivia, give her some love in the comments because she took time away from her 8-month-old son to come and share some value with all of you. So make sure to drop her a thank you. And everyone have a fantastic rest of your night.